Welcome to Rewatch and Rank. On this channel, we rewatch older TV shows, provide a summary and opinion on the episode before ranking each episode against each other. And today's episode is Death Note Part 2, Episode 37, New World. Just a reminder of what happened in this episode. So this is the episode where we finally get our conclusion. Light loses. It picks up where the last episode left off, with the seconds counting down, and of course nobody dying. And then Light has a bit of a disgraceful mental breakdown before, admitting that he is actually Kira after trying to talk himself out of it and failing, and then goes on about how amazing he is and what he's done is so great and nobody else could have done what he did, and you know how he gets. Basically hyping himself up as he's caught and then basically challenging them to kill him or Mikami, whichever the case may be. Nier then explains to him that he never lied and that he had already told him that he had messed with the notebook, but reveals that he didn't just tamper with the notebook. The fake notebook, he tampered with both notebooks. He actually stole the real notebook, replaced it with a fake, and then tampered with Mikami's fake, so there was actually two fakes and the real one, and so no matter what, Light was bound to lose. And Light, of course, secure in his win, thinking that, there was this second fake, or the fake that he had made in the last episode, said that he wins, which of course gave him away. And then of course Mikami comes in and calls him his god, says he did what he was supposed to do. Basically jig is up. Matsuda ends up shooting Light, and then Light uses Mikami's suicide to escape the room and wanders through all of the warehouse buildings, and Ryuk then basically says, I said from day one that I would be the one to write your name, and I'm not sitting around waiting for you to die naturally in prison, therefore I'm gonna just end you here. And he writes Light's name. We then see Misa wandering around completely without any consequences for her actions. And then as Light closes his eyes, we see almost like a ghost or an illusion of L in front of him. And then he closes his eyes, and that is the end of the anime series of Death Note. So now that we've been reminded about what happened in the finale, it's time to rank the episode. As always, we'll be ranking on the mostly objective ranking list, followed by the personal ranking list. So we start the episode. It's mostly objective rank values with the positives as usual. And to start off, we have our single arc supporting character development, and this is of course Mikami dying by his own hand. Then we have the single arc main character development, which is that Nier wins, and he explains to us how he did it by, once again, tampering with Light's fake, then replacing the real book with his own fake, and then keeping the real book with him, allowing him to see Ryuk, and also to ensure that nobody was going to die, as he had messed with both the fake and the real Death Notes. And so we have 3 points right now, 1 for the single arc supporting and 2 for the single arc main character development. We then have another 3, bringing us up to 6 for the multi-arc supporting character development, and this of course is Matsuda shooting Light. And then an additional 3 points, bringing us up to 9 for Ryuk writing Light's name in his own notebook, killing Light. So Matsuda didn't do the killing blow, it was Ryuk. Then we have a positive 4 for our multi-arc main character development, bringing us up to 13. And this, of course, is that Light loses both the game he was playing against Nier and also his life, ultimately, at the hands of Ryuk. But there were negatives. First negative was, oh, a massive character regression. Light, when he loses, has a complete mental conniption. Like, oh, the most disgraceful loser you have ever seen. Like, when they say sore loser, his picture is next to the definition because it is the absolute most disgraceful thing I have ever seen. And as he is like going through his little mental breakdown, having him like his complete destruction of his character, he is doing all these funny poses and like his face is all contorted. And I understand that that's part of like the anime to express just how emotionally wrought he is, but oh my goodness, the funny poses, like the poses just were like, oh my goodness, secondhand embarrassment, the disgracefulness of his behavior. Oh, oh, it was terrible. It was absolutely terrible. I really wish he could have died with a little bit more dignity than that, but it was, oh my God, so pathetic. So pathetic. The secondhand embarrassment was off the charts. And then we also have a -2 for negative messaging or behavior, and that is the fact that Misa has nothing happen to her at all. Like, okay, Light chose to be Kira when he picked up the book, and you could make an argument that maybe Misa would not have become a second Kira and would have just received the book from Rem and maybe just killed the person who murdered her parents and then gone on about her life and not even looked at it. Maybe. But the fact is, when she got the book from Rem, without having met Light and without influence from Light, other than his reputation as Kira starting to gain some momentum in the world, she made the decision to become a second Kira. She went out of her way to be the second Kira. She was very happy to be the second Kira and to kill as many people as possible, even after she loses her memories and regains her memories. She goes right back to it, totally fine with being it. She gives up half her lifespan twice in order to get the eyes. Like, she's just very happy to be Kira, and she's definitely one of the Kiras, and every single other Kira gets their comeuppance and the consequences for their actions. You know, we have the Yotsuba Kira. He died by Light's hand so that he could reclaim his memories in the notebook. Um, Mikami, by his own hand, died. And then Light, of course, by Ryuk's hand, with Mitsuda's help, I guess, dies. But somehow Misa, whose passion was really only second to Light's, has nothing happen to her at all. She's just casually riding a train and standing on a rooftop, gazing out in the sunset, and it's like, hello, she is a murderer. If you are saying that Light is a murderer, she is a murderer. If Nier is telling Kira that he's just another serial killer, she's another serial killer. Nier had her in custody, let her go for some unfathomable reason. There's no Rem holding, Misa's fate over them or anything like that. There's no reason to let her go, and yet he does, and she just gets to live out the rest of her life after being like second only to Kira himself as far as how prolific her murdering was and the number of people that she killed was. And again, she did start being the Kira and killing on her own before she met Light. I think she should have had consequences. I think her being able to just get off scot-free, no consequences whatsoever, just go about her life, is a travesty and a miscarriage of justice of the highest degree. It should never have happened. It bothers me. So, big negative messaging or behavior. Now, I'm not saying she had to be executed, but like, she deserves consequences for her actions. She should have spent her life in prison. Like, the rest of her life should have been behind bars for killing a multitude of individuals, all of her own free will, because she was never coerced into helping Kira. In fact, she had to beg to help him. So, I mean, the only thing I can think of as to why she got off was because she was a girl, which is kind of sexist. So, I still think even if she was a woman, she still should have had to face the consequences of her actions. So I think it's very negative messaging and behavior that she ended up getting off with no consequences. But anyways, that still left us with the 10 points, and that does put it into first place on our definitive part 2 rankings, as this was the last episode of the part and also of the series. So our definitive list: first place was New World, second place Selection, third place Vigilance, fourth Justice, fifth Malice, sixth was Father, seventh Transfer, eighth 1.28, ninth Abduction, 10th Impatience, and in 11th place is Scorn. Now, as for my personal ranking, I could go on a second rant about Misa, but let's just say she took off the points, did not enjoy that. While Light's complete breakdown can be considered a little bit funny because of just how over the top it was, like, he went into some pretty interesting poses while he was ranting about things and trying to defend himself, and the expressions on his face, it was funny, but also, like I said, it was such a regression of the character, such disgraceful behavior. The second-hand embarrassment that I felt was extreme. But it did have some shining moments. First off, it is the finale. We get our conclusion. So everything is wrapped up in a nice little bow, except for Misa, which is why there's minus points. I love that Ryuk ultimately was the one to take. Okay, so I like that Matsuda, who is the most loyal on the task force, is the one who ends up, like, wounding Light and stopping him from killing Nier, because that's, like, one final betrayal. And Matsuda was the most loyal to Light out of all of the task force, who felt the strongest connection to him. So I do like that he got his moment. Then, of course, I really like that they had Ryuk be basically like the ultimate winner of everything. He got to witness both games. He got to have all of his entertainment. He got to chill out in the human world and have all the apples that he wanted. And then in the end, he writes Light's name and he's just like off to chill wherever, either still in the human world or back to the Shinigami realm. We don't really get anything other than him sitting on a tower, so what happened next for him, I don't know. But, you know, he came out of everything kind of on top. Rem ended up dying, but him, he stuck it out, and he ultimately did take Light's name, and I did like that that promise of his is fulfilled, that he will be the one to write Light's name, and then he is the one to write Light's name. Perfect. I also really, really like the scene where as Light is laying on the stairs in one of the abandoned warehouses, as he's closing his eyes after his heart attack, because that's how Ryuk took his life, he sees like L, kind of like a ghostly L, standing there as he closes his eyes. And I thought that was a great moment, and I'm like, no wonder there's so many fan fictions out there, because that moment was amazing. That we got that callback to Light, because to L, I mean, because I am still so dissatisfied with the fact that Nier and Mello were the ones to win against Light. I really, really wish. I feel like I would have been more satisfied if it had been a duel between Light and L and they managed to take each other out, ending it in like a draw, because I feel like that would have given me more satisfaction in the ending than it being L's successors, because I've mentioned this before too. I don't hate the successors. I think they both have unique character quirks, and I don't think that they're terrible characters. They just aren't L, and I really felt like the L and Light cat and mouse was the foundation for the awesomeness of part 1, and part 2, losing that, lost a lot, and it is not my favorite. I don't really like part 2. This is the first time I've rewatched it since it was on cable. Like, I do not resonate with part 2. And I would have been so much more satisfied if Light and L had a major showdown and they managed to take each other out, ending it in a draw. I think that would have been amazing, rather than it being L losing to Light and then Light losing disgracefully to Near and Mellow. Like, I was dissatisfied ultimately, but there is no denying it was the best episode of part two, it being our finale, and so I did give it 8 points ultimately in order to put it at the top because it does deserve to be there, even though I am dissatisfied. And that is why our personal ranking for part two, the definitive list, now that all of the episodes have been watched of the anime, is in first place, New World, second, Malice, third, Vigilance, fourth, Father, fifth, Selection, sixth, Justice, seventh was 1.28, eighth was Transfer, ninth, Abduction, 10th, Scorn, and then in 11th place was Impatience. And that now brings us to our definitive series ranking, as we are officially done with the anime of this show. And so, our mostly objective ranking, part one, unsurprisingly to me at least, came in first with 70.77%, and part two finished off with 57 out of 110, which is 51.82%. On the personal side, part one, also unsurprisingly to me, came in first with a 60.38%, and part two ended with 54 out of a possible 110, which is 49.09%. And with that, we have now rewatched and ranked Death Note Part 2, Episode 37, New World. Like and subscribe if you'd like to. And I'll see you in the next series.